Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The NFL Show is brought to you by BetNow.eu. Use the promo code TRUTH100 to get a cashback bonus on your first deposit. I am your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host from the FF Face-Off, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
What's going on, Mike?
We actually get to see a good Thursday night game last night, Anthony. The Oakland Raiders beat the Los Angeles Chargers 26-24. And Phillip Rivers, 3 interceptions, did not look good last night. What looked even worse to me was their offensive line, Anthony.
Yeah, I've been saying this for a while this season now about Phil Rivers. He doesn't look like the same quarterback. Yes, he's getting older, but that line is terrible. He's been under pressure all season long, and especially last night, he just looked spooked anytime he released that football.
Yeah, and he got sacked, 5 times? Led by Cleveland Farrell, the old standout from Clemson, who had 2.5 sacks last night. Josh Jacobs, he had a good game, 16 carries for 71 yards. And once again, Derek Carr, 21 for 31, 218 yards, 1 touchdown. Most importantly, no interceptions, Anthony. And this team sits at 5-4 right now. And with the schedule they are looking at, are they a favorite to make the playoffs right now?
I said going into yesterday's game on my show that the winner would end up advancing to the playoffs. I think this loss kind of puts a fork in Los Angeles this season, going down, 4 or 5 games in the division. And this puts the Raiders right up there. And they got a date with the Kansas City Chiefs coming up soon, which could mean a lot going into the end of the season.
Well, it could, just because of the fact they're 5-4. Next up, they host the Cincinnati Bengals. Then they go to New York to play the Jets. So they're going to go to Kansas City with a 7-4 record, and they are capable of running the ball. They can throw the ball. They're dangerous for Kansas City right now.
No, they really are, especially if they can get Josh Jacobs going against the weakness of Kansas City's defense, which is stopping the run.
Yeah, I think right now when you look at this, they're a 10-6 football team. They finished the season by hosting the Titans. They host the Jaguars, 2 games they should win. Then they go to the Chargers, and then they go to the Broncos. So could John Gruden be the coach of the year?
Depends on where he can take them and how far he can take them.
Well, they're going to vote for it as soon as the season ends, though. They don't wait for the playoffs to end. So if this is a 10-6 wild card team, should he be in the conversation? He should be in the conversation, I think.
Certainly in the conversation.
And I think a lot of this has to do with what happens with Mike Tomlin, even though I think Mike Tomlin will be ignored for whatever reason.
Yeah, and there's also Sean McDermott, depending on how Buffalo finishes.
Yeah, but you know what? At the start of the year, I thought Buffalo would make the playoffs as a wild card. I didn't think the Raiders would.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What about Kyle Shanahan now? I know you thought that the 49ers would have a good year, but not many saw this coming.
Well, I did pick him in a championship game, and I did make a preseason bet on him to win the Super Bowl at 50-1 on $50, which looks pretty good right now. And when you look at the Chargers, I just think the offensive line's not good enough. Melvin Gordon ran the ball 22 carries for 108 yards. But this team has issues, especially offensively, with that offensive line.
Well, that's part of the problem. Yes, the offensive line. But in the first half, Melvin Gordon had a monster game in the first half, and they just stopped using him in the second half.
Yeah.
He was non-existent.
And I'll tell you the thing that's really sad to me is the fact
And this was a one-score game. They could have ran Melvin Gordon.
Yeah. And I don't understand why they didn't. At least not more. I mean, to me, if 22 carries
there's a reason why they
30,
fired their OC.
Yeah.
And I think it goes to Anthony Lynn.
Yeah, well, hopefully. I think Anthony Lynn's a good coach. I just hope they give him another year after this. The sad thing for me is the fact that there's no more games after this year in Oakland. And that atmosphere is great, even though the stadium is terrible. You there?
Yeah, you got to feel bad for the Raiders fans.
Yeah, because they don't deserve this. And
No,
like
and they've been loyal. They've been loyal.
They've been loyal through a bunch of crap, too, including that team going to Los Angeles for like 15 or 16 years in the middle of this. But, all right. Any other news you want to talk about in the NFL before we go to picking the games?
You know, it was the Giants. They ruled out both Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram. Yeah, you know, not a ton of news. John Connor's not expected to play. Pat Mahomes is practicing in full, but Andy Reid has not yet named who the starting quarterback's going to be. I think the smart money, now that Los Angeles lost this game in 2 weeks, doesn't have as much meaning. And if the Chiefs were smart, I'd probably shut Mahomes down until after the bye, which means he misses 2 more.
Yeah, because they should be able to beat the Titans even without. And the Chargers. Let's go ahead and we'll start off with those Kansas City Chiefs as they travel to Tennessee to battle the Titans on Sunday at 1 o'clock. Who do you like in this one?
I'm going to lean on the Kansas City Chiefs no matter who's the quarterback. I just think they have more talent, and eventually that talent's going to show over the Titans. And I don't think it's going to be a blowout. This is going to be a close game, but I can see Ryan Tannehill playing catch-up in the fourth quarter. And if that's the case, then I think Tennessee loses. If Tennessee can somehow get Derrick Henry over 100 yards, get him involved in the game more, and somehow get a lead. If Tennessee goes into the fourth quarter with a lead, I think they win. But if the Chiefs control this game, Tennessee's going to lose.
Yeah, I think it all going to come down to Kansas City Chiefs' defensive line against the Tennessee Titans' offensive line. The Titans' offensive line has not played as well as we expected this year. I think Kansas City's going to get after Tannehill, force a couple turnovers. I think the Chiefs win this game relatively easy, 7 to 13 points. But if the Titans can get that running game going, they're a physical team, which Kansas City's had trouble with before, but I like the Chiefs here. Next up, the Buffalo Bills, who are actually, for some reason, a small underdog going to Cleveland, Anthony.
Yeah, that line makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I don't know how they're going into Cleveland as underdogs.
Well, I would think that they're trying to get even money bet on everybody, and you still got a lot of Cleveland Browns fans that are delusional, thinking this team all of a sudden is going to win the Super Bowl.
Is Kareem Hunt going to add anything? Can he add a spark? I know you can't take many carries away from Nick Chubb after the year he's had, but maybe you get Kareem Hunt a little bit more involved in the passing game. And is there a spark here, or is the Browns just done?
I think the Browns are just done. I think they've got issues with the head coach. I think they've got issues at quarterback. I actually think this will be a close game because the Buffalo Bills don't play too many blowouts. And it actually wouldn't even surprise me if Cleveland won this game just because Buffalo has a hard time putting points on the board. But I'm with you. I'm going to go with the Bills to win a close game here. This game, to me, it's not important when you look at the playoff race. But the Arizona Cardinals Tampa Bay Buccaneers could be one of the funner games played this weekend, Anthony.
Wait, I lost you there.
I said the Cardinals and Bucks could be one of the funner games played this weekend.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of offense in this game.
So who do you like?
Considering I still don't trust Jameis Winston as much as some people do, I am going to side with the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bucks. I think Winston will play well in this game. I think the Bucks defensive line will get after Kyler Murray a little bit. I like the Bucks in a close one, but neither way would surprise me. Next up, the battle for New York, which nobody cares about. The New York Giants against the New York Jets. The Jets are only a 3-point dog at home. I'm going to go with the Giants. I don't really have a good reason for it other than the Jets lost to the Dolphins last week, or Anthony. Anthony, Giants.
I'm sorry, you're going in and out.
No, I'm not. You're too busy doing other things. But the Jets and Giants, who do you like here?
You know, this is not a game I'm really looking forward to. There's a lot of injuries on both sides. Two young quarterbacks. who can possibly get something going. But I actually like the Giants in this game. I just think the Jets are playing with no pride and no heart right now.
All right, next up, the Atlanta Falcons, who are playing with no defense and very little offensive line right now, will travel to New Orleans to take on the Saints. I think it's safe to pick the Saints here, Anthony.
Yeah, they're definitely the safer bet than New Orleans Saints, especially when they're coming in fully healthy with Breeze and Kamara back. And I think Latavius Murray is going to get more touches. So, yeah, I like the Saints big time here.
All right, next up, the Baltimore Ravens travel to face Opie Taylor's winless Cincinnati Bengals. Lamar Jackson is ill right now. I don't think that matters. The Baltimore
and
Ravens
he returned to
win this
practice
game.
today. He's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. I mean, maybe he's ill just because of the thought of having to go play the Bengals. Now, the Bengals did play it close last time at 23-17, but it was probably the most one-sided 23-17 game I've ever seen, Anthony.
Yeah, this should be a game that Baltimore, who I think their defense is better than what it was a couple of weeks ago, the last time they played, with the addition of Marcus Peters and Jimmy Smith back healthy, no A.J. Green, Ryan Finley's first start. I think Baltimore should dominate this game.
Yeah, and I think there's nothing wrong with A.J. Green other than he's waiting on a long-term contract with a lot of guaranteed money. And I don't think he plays this year again until they come to terms on an agreement like that.
Why wouldn't they just shut him down? If you're A.J. Green, why not just, what are you doing?
You don't get this. This is Cincinnati. A.J. Green no longer wants to be here unless they are going to overpay him big time. So he said this when they shut down Andy Dalton and brought in Ryan Finley. A.J. Green immediately said, I want to stay here, but only if it's a long-term guaranteed contract. I think A.J. Green's gone after this season. I don't think the Bengals are going to give him what he wants. And from everything I'm told, they are far apart negotiating a contract, and they have been negotiating a contract. And he was supposed to practice on Tuesday. He showed up to the practice field and then said his ankle had swollen up mysteriously, and he went back home.
Yeah, I think the mystery is just not wanting to suit back up without the security of a deal, which he deserves, whether it's from Cincinnati or not. It's just such a, with teams like the Bengals and the way Trent Williams was treated with the Redskins, something's got to be done with some of these veteran players that really don't cause a lot of issues for your team.
Yeah, and the thing is this, the only reason there's a minimum salary cap is because of teams like the Cincinnati Bengals, or probably just the Cincinnati Bengals in general. Because with no minimum salary cap, I guarantee you the Bengals would be way under it.
Yeah, that would be the Pirates. The Pittsburgh Pirates of baseball.
Yeah, but the Pittsburgh Pirates actually made the playoffs and won some games in the playoffs a few years ago. Next up, the Detroit Lions and Matt Stafford will go to Chicago to battle the Bears. This is a must-win game for either one of these teams if they want to save their season. Mitchell Trubisky, Matt Stafford. I'm going with the Lions.
Yeah, it's not close. I don't trust Mitchell Trubisky. I don't think he should ever be a starter for the Bears unless it's because he's their backup and their starter gets injured. The only good thing they have in Chicago right now, I think we're starting to see the good David Montgomery emerge here, but he can't beat the Lions all by himself because the Lions, their offense is playing outstanding.
Well, the Lions
so I'm
can't
going to go
run
with
the
Matt
ball.
Stafford.
So do you have any concern?
But Matt Stafford, I mean, he's having one of the best seasons of his career right now.
Yeah. Next up, the Miami Dolphins, who are on a one-game winning streak, will travel to Indianapolis to battle the Colts. Who's playing quarterback this weekend, Anthony?
I think we're going to see Jacoby Brissett tough it out.
All right. Who do you like?
He's been practicing. I think he's gonna be the guy.
The point spread on this game is like 11.5, 12 points.
Miami's been playing tough.
Yeah, I would almost lean towards taking the points if I was going to bet this, but the Colts will win the game. Agreed?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I would take the points too.
All right, next up, the Carolina Panthers. Kyle Allen, Christian McCaffrey, and the guys will go to Green Bay to battle the Packers and Aaron Rodgers.
I think this is going to be a big game for Green Bay because they need to bounce back after a poor showing last week against the Chargers. I think the Carolina defense at home's a lot better than how they play on the road. And if this game's a shootout, I just don't see how Kyle Allen's going to go punch for punch with Aaron Rodgers. Because I like Kyle Allen a lot, but he's just not that type of quarterback, at least not yet.
I don't like Kyle Allen a lot. I think he's okay. He's better than what their alternative is, which is an injured Cam Newton. I think this game will be similar to the Oakland-Green Bay game a few weeks ago, where something like 42-24, 35-24, something like that. I just don't think they'll be able to score enough points. I think Christian McCaffrey will score some points for him, but it won't be enough in the end.
But there's the thing. I mean, McCaffrey is that type of player. We talk about him in the MVP conversation. What if McCaffrey by himself does enough to beat the Packers? Can we start talking about McCaffrey as an MVP?
I think he already should be talked about. To me, my top 3 MVP candidates would be him, Deshaun Watson, and Russell Wilson.
And where does Dak fit?
You're kidding, right?
A little bit.
Okay, you're kidding a lot. 13 touchdowns, 7 picks, barely over 500, doesn't count. Sorry. But all right, next up, the Los Angeles Rams will battle the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. And this is a game that I'm going to go with the Rams just because Mason Rudolph's the quarterback for the Steelers. But the toughness of the Steelers, I think very well could beat the Rams in this game.
I think it's going to be tough. I'm not going to call it impossible, but the Pittsburgh defense is going to be what wins this game ultimately for Pittsburgh if they do come out with the win.
Well, that's every game for Pittsburgh.
Well, the new Pittsburgh Steelers, the recent Pittsburgh Steelers, yes. But they were very much an offensive team with Big Ben in the past couple of years. But I'm going to side with the Rams here.
All right. We've come to that moment. The Minnesota Vikings at the Dallas Cowboys, Anthony. I know you're probably picking the Vikings here.
No, I'm going to pick the Cowboys, and it's not just because I'm a Cowboys fan. We're not expecting to see Adam Thielen, and even if he does play, we saw it last week. He wasn't 100%, and he left after a couple of plays. So no Adam Thielen does change the Minnesota offense because as much as I like Stephon Diggs, he's a really good deep threat. Thielen's more of that safety blanket for Kirk Cousins, more of that reliable weapon. So without him, that drops Kirk Cousins a little bit for me. And then also Kirk Cousins 1-6 against the Cowboys, and his stats coming into this season in big games. Why I say this guy doesn't have a signature win. His stats in big games are terrible. Coming into this year, he was 6-13 in primetime, 1-12 on Monday and Thursday night, 5-25 against winning teams, 1-6 against winning teams in 2018 with the Vikings, 13-23-2 on the road, and 0-1 in the playoffs. So yeah, I there's no way I'm going to pick Kirk Cousins in this Vikings team this week.
Which team has more talent?
Dallas.
I agree. Now, which team has the better coach?
Zimmer.
So that would be Minnesota.
Yes.
I think this is a huge game for both of these teams, and I think that goes without saying. How's Amari Cooper? I know he says he's going to play, but he aggravated that knee injury last week, and that was on Monday, so it's a short week. Is there any worry there?
Well, they're saying he underwent an MRI, which was precautionary. He was a little bit banged up against the Giants, but he still ended up scoring a fourth-quarter touchdown. So I think Cooper's going to – I mean, Cooper hasn't been healthy since week one. Cooper's been playing hurt and through multiple injuries, whether it's a knee, ankle, quad, calf. You know, Cooper's pretty durable.
Now, the stat go ahead.
I was going to say, you said this is a big game, but I think it's a big game for a reason that not many are thinking about right now is the fact that there's a chance to where both of these teams, what if the Eagles go on a run and the Cowboys slide? Both of these teams could be playing for a wild card spot, and this could be the tiebreaker.
Well, I think this. I think that if the Cowboys lose this game, I think the only thing they could play is a wild card spot because obviously the Eagles are the best team. I'm just kidding, by the way. But the stat that sticks out to me is the Vikings haven't allowed any points off turnovers in 5 straight games. Kirk Cousins has gone 3 straight games without a turnover, matching the longest streak of his career since he became a full-time starter for the Redskins in 2015. I would say this. If Kirk Cousins doesn't turn the ball over, I think the Vikings win the game. If he does turn the ball over, I think the Cowboys win the game.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
Because Kirk Cousins, I mean, you said that he failed miserably last week, but he threw 3 touchdown passes with no interceptions.
He did, but he completed under 50% of his passes, which for a guy who usually completes 70 to 80, that's significant, and I think that plays a role with Adam Thielen.
Well, how about this, though? Would you rather have 70% completions with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions or 50% with 3 touchdowns and no interceptions? I mean, to me, the touchdowns and interceptions is the most important stat a quarterback can have.
Right, and in his career, 7 games against Dallas, 12 touchdowns, 5 picks.
That ain't bad, is it?
No, but again, 1-6 is bad.
Yeah, but 1-6 is bad, but you just told me stats are pretty good, so that just tells me the Cowboys were always better than the Redskins. I mean,
he was 1-6 against winning teams last year with the Vikings.
Yeah.
What's his record against winning teams this year?
The Vikings were not very good either, were they?
What's his record against winning teams this year?
I don't know. What's Dak's record against winning teams this year?
Dak doesn't have the best record against winning teams in his career.
No kidding. He sucks.
But it's better than Cousins, and he still has the second most wins to Tom Brady since coming into the league. And the most primetime wins since coming into the league.
Uh-huh. In 1 playoff win. At home in a wild card game. Correct?
Against your guy, Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Here, Vikings. They beat the Falcons. They have 1 win. They lost to the Packers. They have 7 wins. They did beat the Raiders, they're now 1 game above 500.
Correct.
They lost to the Bears and only put up 6 points. This is the Chicago Bears. They beat the Giants.
Out the Eagles.
They beat the Eagles.
They beat Detroit in Detroit, which even with the record, Detroit's a good
losing team. They're a losing team.
They're a good football team.
They beat the Redskins, and they lost to the Chiefs.
Yeah. So that is a win over the Eagles, same as the Cowboys.
So he's 3.
Kirk
Cousins is 3-900 against winning teams. Again.
3-900.
3-900. Yeah, I'm blowing that out of proportion a little bit, but still, it's not.
Well,
good.
You're a Cowboys fan, so that's expected. So what you're telling me is he's beaten 3 good teams this year. So let's look at the Cowboys' record. And the Cowboys beat the Giants. They beat the Eagles. There's 1. They lost to the Jets. They got beat by the Packers. They lost to the Saints. They beat the Dolphins. They beat the Giants. They beat the Redskins. So when I look at that, Minnesota is beating the better competition this year. And it's not even close.
They beat better competition than the New England Patriots, too.
Yeah. But you're the one that used this as a point because you said that Minnesota. What's Kirk Cousins' record this year against teams with winning records? It's better than your boys. Correct? Your best win is against the Eagles, and you beat them by pretty much the same score that the Vikings beat them by.
Yeah, and their next best win is going to be against the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday night.
What's their next best win right now?
All of their blowouts.
Yeah, what's the next best win against?
I mean, you
Giants?
know when you play an inferior opponent, you should blow them out, and Dallas has done that every time.
They have?
They blew out the Giants twice.
No, they didn't. Neither
they
one of those
blew out
Giants.
Washington.
Wait a second. They blew out the Giants once. The last Giant game, they were up a point going to the 4th quarter? The Cowboys-Redskins was not a blowout.
1?
No, the one they just played.
Yeah, but they ended up blowing them out.
In the fourth quarter, late. It's not like they
Blowout's a
dominated the
blowout.
game. They did not dominate the game, and they did not look good in that game.
Oh.
Because you should dominate the Giants if you're a really good team. And the Cowboys-Redskins game, I mean, that was a game that was 21-14 partway through the fourth quarter. So it ended up 31-21.
Dallas starts slow, and they're a third and fourth quarter team.
Oh, okay.
And Ezekiel Elliott, you run him. Eventually, defense gets tired, and you can throw your body. You're throwing face shots instead of body shots.
Basically, I was just using your argument against you, and you proved it by trying to get off the subject now.
Okay.
Well, it's true. I mean, the Vikings have better wins this season. The Vikings have a better record this season.
And that's going to change on Sunday night. Because Kirk Cousins, he has a chance for a signature win, and he's going to choke.
No, he doesn't. This is not a signature win. It's a mid-season game on a Sunday night in Dallas. That's not a signature win. A signature win would be if this was a divisional playoff game and the winner went to the championship game. That would be a signature win. And so, over the last 3 games, Kirk Cousins, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. What's Dak last 3 games? With a quarterback rating of 112.
Isn't Dak his last, 2-0, 2-1?
2-1 because he lost to the freaking Jets. Because as you said, the Cowboys, when they play inferior teams, they blow them out, except for when they lose to them. And for this season, Kirk Cousins, 16 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 2,200 yards. He's completed 69% of his passes. And that's with no offensive line. And that's also with a really bad start to his season. His first couple games were not that good.
Well, the first game, he didn't have to be because Dalvin Cook had control of that game.
Well, I'm not talking about the first game. I'm talking about the second game against Green Bay, which he still should have won the game. And he played not great against the Bears. He didn't play bad against the Bears. But see, this is the thing. If you're going off completion percentage, against the Bears, he was 27 for 36, which is 75% completions. No touchdowns, no interceptions. Is that better than 19 for 38, 50% completions with 3 touchdowns and no picks?
Did they win or lose the game?
They won the game where he was 3 touchdowns, no picks. But the game where he threw no picks and completed 75% of his passes against the Bears, they lost.
What?
Well, I mean, you're the one that ripped on him because he only completed 50% of his passes while throwing 3 touchdowns and no interceptions.
I'm just saying, maybe if he completed a few more first down conversions, they would have won.
But he still did enough to win the game. I mean, and that was his worst passer rating of the year outside of the 2 losses.
How come when Dak does just enough to win the game, can't give him any credit?
I don't know.
And they win. But if
Kirk
Cousins does enough to win the game and they lose, you want to put him in the Hall of Fame.
How about this? When have I ever said anything bad about Dak Prescott?
A lot.
When?
When he talked about the Cowboys.
When I said that I think he's one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, that's me ripping on him.
Okay, so, but you don't put him ahead of Cousins?
No. You can't off of this season. I mean, this season, Prescott's thrown 3 times as many picks and less touchdowns. He's not even a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. And they both completed 69% of their passes. So I have a hard time believing here. And I mean, you look at the Green Bay game he played, he throws 3 picks. I mean, he's thrown 8 interceptions. He threw as many picks in one game as Kirk Cousins has thrown all season. And it was his signature game against the Green Bay Packers. I think Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. I think Kirk Cousins is just a little bit better. And neither one of them
You don't
have a
think that
signature
Kirk
win.
Cousins is missing? Because here's the difference. I think they're close, but Kirk Cousins is missing I think Dak has the it factor.
He doesn't.
And I don't think Kirk Cousins
Guys
does.
with the it factor win big games. He hasn't done that. He's won a wild
Dak
card
Prescott
game.
is the most winning primetime quarterback since he's been in the league. Kirk Cousins is 6-14.
What's Dak Prescott? The teams he
Okay,
played. How many of
primetime
those
in the
were
regular
winning teams?
season's kind of a big deal.
No, it didn't. How's it a big deal? It's no different than Sunday at 1
Because
o'clock.
it's the most viewed game on a Sunday. It's the only game on in that time slot. There's usually pressure. You have Chris Collinsworth calling the game without Michaels. It's a big deal. It's a big game.
It's not. It's the same. It used to be a big deal when Howard and Dandy Don and Frank Gifford called it.
That was Monday Night Football.
Yeah. And this is Sunday Night Football,
Yes.
which shouldn't even exist except for every once in a while like it used to. What do you think about that?
I love Sunday Night Football. Just like the song says, I've been waiting all day for Sunday night.
You just like Carrie Underwood.
I actually like Chris Collinsworth a lot.
So who do you think's cuter? Carrie Underwood or Chris Collinsworth?
Is that a serious question? Al Michaels.
You like Al Michaels? You like older
I
men
do.
better?
I do.
Oh, hell.
Michelle Tafoya, she doesn't age.
She does it?
No. Neither does, what's her name on Fox? Pam Oliver.
Okay. Well, that's because when you have money, you don't age as quickly because you get a lot of surgeries. And don't you think Dak is so good on Monday night and Sunday night games because at least once every year he gets to play the Giants? And once every year he gets to play the Redskins? Tell me this. Can you tell me how many wins in prime time Dak has against teams with winning records?
I don't know. I got to look.
I bet it's not many because he does get 2 games a year against the Cowboys and the
Well, last year
Redskins.
on a Thursday night primetime game, that's when Dak went into New Orleans where New Orleans went to Dallas and Dak won, beat Drew Brees.
Yeah. But then at the end of the season, I remember watching the NFC Championship game, and Drew Brees was there, and Dak Prescott wasn't. That's why it's not a signature win. He just won a regular season game. In the end, Drew Brees played a game farther into the playoffs than he did.
No, he did. He did.
So
no regular season wins are signature.
No.
They're all just preseason games.
No, they're all regular season games. They're to get you to the big point.
Right. And eventually, and during that road, you play a couple of big games that are.
But they're not. There's a difference between a big game and a signature game. I mean, hell, there's a case to be made that since you only play 16 football games in a season, that every game is a big game.
No, every win counts, every loss counts in football.
So right now,
but some are better. Some mean more than others.
So far, yeah, and so far this season, Kirk Cousins has bigger wins. He has more wins, and he's beaten better opponents.
If Kirk Cousins can play every game at 1 o'clock in a dome or perfect weather, he'd be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
He would never lose.
Well, if Dak Prescott could get on a team with a head coach and an owner, maybe he could be a Hall of Famer. But that's not going to happen. Because I'm pretty sure Jason Garrett is like Opie Taylor's old uncle. But, all right, so who you picking, the Cowboys or the Vikings?
The referees. No, the Cowboys.
Well, see, and I think the referees will have something to do with it, just like they did in the Giants game with that pass interference call that won the game for the Cowboys.
Just like the pass interference call that the referees didn't call in the end zone on during that Jason Witten play. When he was robbed, and it could have gave Dallas an extra play on the 2-yard line?
Yeah, but it wasn't interference because they looked at it and they said it wasn't.
Oh, no. They just grabbed both of his arms. That wasn't interference. He got to catch it with his helmet.
I'm going to say Kirk Cousins, 38, Dak Prescott, 17.
17 what?
Points.
Get out of here. 17 points.
You don't think they scored that many?
Not against my Cowboys.
I was talking about the Cowboys would get 17. The
No,
Vikings will have 38. This will be a beatdown where on Monday You're gonna have to. You have to promise to never say he's never won a big game again. It's a signature win for Kirk Cousins. Remember?
It is. It's an opportunity for a signature win. I will. I'm not denying that.
Which doesn't even put him in the playoffs. But all right, Anthony, tell everybody where they can find the FF Face-Off.
You can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru, and you can follow my show at the FF Face-Off, and you can find us on all of the top social media platforms.
All right, guys, you can find me at Grueling Truth. Make sure you check out thegruelingtruth.com. We've posted a total of 32 new podcasts in the last 24 hours, and I've still got to get the FF Face-Off up, too, because I just noticed this morning you did one yesterday and tagged me in it. All right, guys. We're going to wrap it up. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So, for Anthony Cervino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.